Okay, I apologize in advance for my extremely sore throat. I was at UFC 292 last night watching Sugar Sean O'Malley absolutely dust his way into superstardom. But nevertheless, there are movies I have seen and movies I need to review. So let's start with Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle is the newest movie in whatever DC is now. I don't know if it's one of the last movies in the scrapped DC universe or one of the first movies in James Gunn's DC universe. They keep going back and forth on what movies are canon at this point now. In this movie, Jaime Reyes is trying to get a job. He's trying to support his family. He's this kid who's fresh out of college, and along the way, when he enters a company that he's trying to find his way into, he is able to acquire, well, not really acquire, he is given this little scarab to just safeguard, don't touch anything, don't do anything with it. However, the little scarab activates, it then chooses Jaime Reyes as its host, and when it does, it gives Jaime Reyes powers, gives him abilities, it gives him this big beetle suit. However, Susan Sarandon, who was the head of the company that he was trying to work for, that he ultimately acquired the scarab from, she wants the thing back, and she's prepared to do whatever it takes to get it back from him. I know absolutely nothing about the character of Blue Beetle. He's one of those superheroes that I've never even heard of. To my knowledge, I think he's one of the newer ones in DC. So I didn't know what to expect with this movie. I didn't know what the outline of the movie is. I mean, the only reason I knew what Blue Beetle's powers essentially were from the movie trailer. I haven't seen Blue Beetle. I've seen there's a lot of buzz. There are a lot of people like this movie, and I will say I can see why people would. First of all, Xolo Maridueña, I think I'm pronouncing his name right. He plays Jaime Reyes, the lead in this movie. He's awesome. I absolutely love this dude in Cobra Kai. If you haven't watched Cobra Kai, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. That is one of the best TV shows out there right now. If you have Netflix, it is a must-see. But having seen him in that show and seeing how great he is in that show, I knew he would crush it in this movie, and he absolutely does that. I mean, he just has this charisma and this charm and this likability to himself. It's like, you see him, his characters are always really nice, he seems really nice. Like, cast him in everything, and people will get on board with it, and they will love him. And sure enough, that's the type of character he plays in Jaime Reyes. I mean, he's this kid who's graduated college. His family's really down on his luck. He's tight with them. He's like, I gotta do whatever it takes to get my family in a better situation. And speaking of his family, I really liked the bond they all had. They felt like a really tight-knit family. They all live together, they eat together, they talk about everything together. Nothing's really unfiltered between any of them. In particular, I want to say George Lopez, who plays his uncle. I thought he was pretty funny. It's been a while since I've seen George Lopez in really anything. I will say pretty much everything George Lopez is in, he kind of plays the same character. He has the same sense of humor, but the humor works. And I will say this is definitely geared to be one of the more fun-loving, funny DC movies that we've gone. It's not super dark. I mean, it has a couple moments here and there that are pretty intense and pretty emotional, but this is, for the most part, a pretty light-hearted, fun-loving DC movie. For the most part, I think it really works in that matter. I mean, it's the type of movie you go in, you have fun with, you're appreciating what Jaime Reyes is trying to figure out with the scarab, with this new power that he's ultimately been given. I'll say him exploring the powers of the suit and like the things he can do with it, and ultimately the action of the movie, which really, really brings it home at the end of the movie, I thought was really fun. Because again, I like seeing in Jaime Reyes' character, like he has this suit that he can create everything with, and there's probably powers to it that he could unlock that he could cause real damage with, but he won't do that because he doesn't want to be seen as a killer. It's a small little subplot that goes on with him, and that's what I appreciate seeing. It's like he has all this power, but he wants to be responsible with it. Get into some of the flaws I have with this movie. Okay, so it does, for me, follow a lot of generic superhero movie plot points. And as a result of that, this movie doesn't feel very original. In fact, a lot of plot points, a lot of storylines in this are pretty unoriginal. I mean, the movie has to give him a love interest, so they cast this girl, she's, from this company, she's working with him to try to stop it, so that's where it starts, and of course you're expected to believe that a romance is blooming between the two of them. I don't know, for me, I didn't really get quite into it. I mean, I've seen Xolo Maridueña have way better chemistry with the actresses that he's worked with in Cobra Kai, the ones he's supposed to have love interest with there, and I feel like in those cases, he's developed more of a romance in them, or at least his character has. And this one, I didn't really feel it. It feels like it just progressed into a relationship because the story said it needed to. Also, Susan Sarandon plays the villain of this movie, and I gotta be honest, she wasn't a memorable character. It's not a villain that I am going to remember when compared to other DC movies. She's kind of just the generic businesswoman, just cares about, going for it with the product she wants to create and what she can do with the company. And, she is evil. I mean, she's hardcore in the shit she's doing. And yeah, you hate her character and you're rooting against her and you want Blue Beetle to bring her down and everything like that. But at the same time, all she really brought to the movie was being that CEO piece of shit asshole that the character needs to bring down. It's like DC has a lot of really great villains, and the fact that they went with her, I didn't think it really worked for it. I think the movie tries extra hard to make her this just horrible, despicable, hateful human being that it made it very easy for you to root against her. When in reality, I think they could have done her story and done her character a lot more smart, so maybe you could see more of what she's trying to accomplish and maybe more so of why she sees herself as the hero of her story. It's like she kind of is just this evil, hateful person, and they put the guy in the mech suit to fight Blue Beetle because he can't fight her. For me, it just kind of felt like lazy writing with the villain. Also, like I mentioned, there's just... You watch so much of this movie and it all feels very redundant, very familiar. I could think of like 12 superhero movies. They look at them just like, you're borrowing from that, you're borrowing from that. That's straight out of that one. Like, I'm really having a hard time looking at Blue Beetle and being like, what makes Blue Beetle special? What makes it stand out from every other superhero movie that's been released? And if I'm being honest, I can't really think of one. I mean... This is the problem right here. This is what people say when it comes to superhero movie fatigue. Yeah, people are going to get fatigued by anything that's completely unoriginal. Like, no one wants to go back and see the same superhero movie again and again and again. You gotta make it fresh, you gotta make it unique, and this movie didn't really have anything that was unique. So all in all, Blue Beetle was fun, but familiar. Zola Dueña kills it in the lead role. I love the chemistry that Jaime Reyes has with his whole family, and really the performances the whole family gave, the actors behind them. It had some fun action, had some funny moments, had some emotional moments. I'll say some pretty intense moments. When he does that initial transformation into the suit, that looked like some demon possession shit. That being said, it has too much in it that I've seen before, between generic love interest, generic villain, generic storylines that are all stuff you could pull out of a hat. It's probably been done in a bunch of other superhero movies. And in the end, I would be down to definitely see Blue Beetle again in another project, but it would have to be something more fresh. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.